morning. Welcome to Confessions. I'm your host of Light, Jenny Watson. I'm a personal empowerment coach, new moon astrologer, and past life reader. And my mission is to provide a safe space for you to step into the darkness so that you could shine your brightest of lights. And that's what this show is all about. Tonight we'll be talking about relationships and how things have changed over the generations. There's a new paradigm, one of openness, acceptance, and diversity. Today's norm is no longer yesterday's standard, and we're here tonight to talk about the pros, the cons, the controversy, and the return to love. Our first guest is Dr. Davina Kotulski. She's a psychologist, life coach, and best-selling author in the field of LGBT equality and self-actualization. We also have David Hauser joining us, author of his groundbreaking work, The Tantric Tales of Mahamudra. And we have Kelly Rossi here, author of the new best-selling book, Dating the Wrong Men. So I'd like to join them, thank them in joining me tonight. And are you all ready to bare your soul?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Yes. So, let's get to the point of it. We're talking about relationships, and, when you look back 50 years to stories about your grandparents and how things were, how have you seen how they have evolved since that point in time from yesterday to today? Who wants to take that on first?
I don't think they've evolved at all. I think they've devolved from my parents' days. I mean, I talk about my parents would trip the light fantastic. That's what I dedicated my book to. And no one's tripping the light fantastic anymore, even knows what that means.
Well, what does that mean, David, for us people who have no knowledge of what that is?
Well, back in the 40s, they used to go out to dance clubs with big band swing, and they would trip the light fantastic, but what it actually meant was when you have a spiritual connection with the one you love, you would experience it on the dance floor and actually end up going to an altered state, and leaving your bodies and going to this, into the stellar abode and have an epiphany experience of love, beyond sex.
I think that's part of what's missing. What do you girls think?
I say this in my book that our world has gone from the Cleavers to the Bundys to the family of Honey Boo Boo, where they don't even know who the parents are of all of the kids. So I, too, with David, I think that, relationships have devolved, and I personally obviously wrote a book on my struggles getting through it. I found, the majority of people that I know have gone through similar struggles, but I'm also interested in finding a way to make it that we bring love and quality relationships back into, maybe not the black and white cleavers, but, into the good realm again.
I think this is a very interesting conversation. I didn't realize that it would go this direction. I met my former wife, my now ex-wife, at a dance club, and we became dance partners and fell in love with one another. So that's very interesting that David is saying that. Unfortunately, maybe part of the reason that we didn't last was stop dancing and other things became more important. But I also think that we're at a time where relationships, and especially marriage, isn't just about security, that we're evolving as spiritual beings, and so those relationships that might have been important to last, for a lifetime, now they're lasting for, we're fulfilling our sacred contracts so that we can move on to the next relationship and learn whatever it is we are meant to learn along our spiritual path. So I kind of see a both and.
Absolutely. And I still hold out hope that there are quality relationships. I think people get hung up on the, for the lifetime, which, it's really sweet when you think about it, how our grandparents and, great-grandparents and so on stayed together their whole lives. But then, like to Davina's point, there are so many people that we come in contact with that are lessons for us, and we owe it to ourselves and to them to, give that lesson its full due. So what do you think are some good changes that have come about through this change in, I guess, let's say just length of commitment?
I'd like to just talk about gender equality because I think one of the things, being an expert on, LGBT marriage equality and unrolling that into society, I think one of the big shifts that's been wonderful is that men and women are also having a more egalitarian relationship, and I think same-sex couples have been a great model for how to have egalitarian relationships. So that is one thing that same-sex couples bring to the table, and I think that's something that's moving forward is the men and women being more equal today.
Well, what I like is that our collective awareness is starting to discover that love is genderless, and that it is a spiritual experience that we all crave, although we're starting to learn what to call it. I don't think we've really had a language to discuss these incredible feelings that we're having and we're craving, and we know innately. Like when I read my book to my parents, they were like, "Oh my God, you nailed it!" In their generation, it was just an unwritten language that everybody knew. But I think in the current generations is that it's there innately, but no one's talking about it.
And, I was talking to Kelly the other day, and she had brought up the point where we really don't have role models for healthy relationships anymore. And, Kelly, do you want to speak a little bit to what your thoughts about that were?
Yeah, I'm very honest about my background, and, a lot of people are growing out without the solid relationship examples in their life, whether they're parents or they're single parents, and they're taking what they are finding, the examples, and moving right into those, right into the same thing that they watched their parent do or not do. And I think it's it's not the healthiest all the time. We aren't really raised with this idea of how to be a good partner, and it's kind of a learning process of, unless you just settle with that relationship that you were shown at an early age, There are people who definitely had very good role models in that area too. So they enter the world, ready to take on love and knowing how to do it. Where, me, I struggled on trying to figure it all out to make it healthy for me. So,
I think part of that is that the role models that we have, if you're talking about parental role models and adults in our lives, I think because there's this massive shift that from traditional to unconventional, that they didn't know how to handle it, so they don't really know how to do a role model because they're kind of navigating the waters to pave the ways for us to become more open, accepting, diverse, and try to figure this out by our generation. That's just my thought. Anybody have any thoughts about that?
I agree with you. There are no role models. That's why I wrote my book, because I want to educate, both sides of the equation, that, these are sacred experiences, that love is our cause. This is why we're here on this planet. Things are not important. Love is the only thing worth living for. But we don't have any kind of decent role models, like you say, and no one is explaining it in ways that we can all understand.
And this is why David should never write in a pen name, because people need a real human being that is good, knows what's going on, and knows how to lead other people.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
She just had to get that in there,
This is the thing. This is one of since writing my book, I see so many books of, ladies, this is what you need to do, and this is what you should do so your man doesn't cheat on you, and this is what you should do so your man doesn't abuse you. And I'm just sitting here like, where are the books for these abusers, and where are the books for these cheaters and these guys who are complete jerks? And it's like nobody wants to address the real issue that's going on here. And so it's the men who, like David, who will step up to the plate and be like, hey guys, not cool, this is how you do it. That's what we really need. And there needs to be a man with an identity behind it too.
Well,
I want you to know really quick that I was the first one to applaud her book online, because her book is so spot on. And it's something that all men need to read her book, to know exactly how we're screwing up, because They're all in there.
They are, but it's also, it's so funny as you're reading it because women can easily take on those roles too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it really addresses characteristics, even though it's a story from a woman's perspective. I mean, let's talk about this, though. We've opened up in the past to, all kinds of relationships. We're talking about LGBT as one, but then there's other kinds, like the polyamorous relationships where it's either like the marriages or there's the open relationships mutually consensual, and then there's, the swingers, and then there's the people who do it behind their backs without the communication that are cheaters. So what do you think created this whole open relationship atmosphere, and how can we make that work if that's the way we're supposed to be going? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Real quick, stupidity created this open relationship thing. It is the most
that's a
thing.
judgment.
It might have been drugs.
Here it might have been drugs. Let me tell you really quickly. This whole journey about love is a journey, and if we stick with one person to have that journey, it actually gets better over time. Yes, we're learning from different people, but why can't those different people be us during different times of our personal growth? We let go too soon, I think, and I don't think we're getting the whole experience of what this mission called love is all about.
I'd like to jump in here, too. I do think that people tend to end relationships too quickly or end marriages too quickly. I've done couples counseling for many, many years and taught marriage and family therapy, and I think that it is important that people try to work things out. And I taught Gottman's methods of looking at communication styles and addressing where people are being disrespectful for one another, or where they're turning away from their work instead of working on the things that they need to do to improve their relationship. And also, I think there comes a time in some relationships where it's not just how to be better communicators or how to go deeper with that one person. I think there are times when people are genuinely, take the case of people that are coming out of the closet and it's time to move on, that those marriages are not meant to last, or other things that are, people have gone as far as they can with a particular partner, and it's no longer about staying and going through it. They truly have other sacred contracts that they need to move on and fulfill. And so I think for some people, they can fulfill what they need to do with the same person over a lifetime. And for others, they're being called in other directions, and that's the most authentic pathway to take. But I do think it's important that people do the work and that they not jump too quickly out of a marriage. And so I think it's our job to help people find what's true for them.
Now, really quickly, do you think that's because people enter relationships without getting to know each other, and then by the time they get to know each other, it's like, oh my God, what did I do?
I think it's a variety of things. I think that for some people it might be jumping into marriage too soon. I think for others it's truly you have different callings, and it's important to realize that. But I think it's important for people to do the work, to go to counseling, to look at themselves, to not look to their partner to complete them and do the inner work that they need to do to change and grow. But I do think for some people, divorce and a new covenant is the most important thing that they could do to honor their sacred path.
Yeah, and I think there's a big communication problem, especially when things get heated and there's disagreements. And I'm going to have Davina, can you talk about the fair rules of fighting more? Because it feels like not very many people understand that when you're in a fight, you still love this person, but there's a lot of things that tend to go on these days that are not loving actions, even if you're angry at the other person. But you probably know this by heart. If you want to, do you know what I'm talking about? The fair rules of fighting.
I mean, I'd like to share a couple of resources. One is John Gottman's Why Marriages Succeed or Fail, and the 7 Principles of a Healthy Relationship, where he talks about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse of the relationship that come up and how to avoid those. So I would refer people to get a copy of that book and to have it and to read it and to explore that with your partner. Also, Nonviolent Communication is another fantastic book to read and learn how to communicate. And it's just important that we're honest, that we can provide suggestions and feedback. But every time we criticize or we disrespect a partner or we name call or we become flooded and we continue to try to engage with that person, we're not going to move forward in our communication. So if our adrenaline is up, if heart's beating too fast, we need to take those timeouts. And I think John Gottman really explains that so perfectly. So I would just refer people to get some of his books and read them with your partner, your spouse, or by yourself.
Excellent. So now another point, and I was talking to Kelly about this too, is that points too about jumping into it too quickly. I think some people just want to be in relationships. They don't look to get to know the other person, but even deeper, do you even know who you are and what you're looking for in a relationship? And I think that's part of an issue too, is that they're looking for the whole idealized concept of the relationship rather than, is this the right kind of person for me, and am I still going to be me in this? And I think there is that kind of sense of discrepancy that causes issues in relationships.
Yeah, where's the school for that? Where's the school that teaches you in high school, hey, learn about you first, and guess what? Maybe you can know somebody else.
Excellent point.
No, it's very true. I talk about that a lot in my book and how my personal journey of going through, kind of being in starting off in a pretty abusive situation and manipulating, and how I need to think and how I need to be, and breaking those that thought process is very difficult. And there's always a lot of outside influences that will always come in. It's like, it's your mom telling you and this is not my mom by any means, but definitely friends' moms, you need to be thin and you need to do this, and it's everybody's got outside influence, and at one point you just gotta, whether or not you know this from an early age or whether you figure it out when you're 40 or 80, this is what makes me happy, and I know what's going to make me happy, so the partner's going to be with me, and they're going to know that's what makes me happy because I'll tell them.
Beautiful. So I'd love to go through each of you and talk a little bit about the books that you've written, that the wisdom that you can share with everybody. So Kelly, since you were just talking, let's start with you. What's your book about, and what's the message that you're trying to get out to people?
My book is my experiences of dating the wrong men, and I have always taken everything with a positive light and tried to find the best of every bad situation, and I have literally been in I think you guys both can agree that I've been in every bad situation with a man, and but it's working through that, overcoming it, having a good attitude towards the future, finding what I need, and working through faith and spirituality, like the struggles that come with those things in a relationship, breaking the habits of what, how you get into dating people who aren't the best for you in the first place, and setting on a new course. And I have a happy ending, so I'm getting married in a few weeks.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And then where can people find your book?
Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, iTunes, Google Play, pretty much anywhere online. And you can go to datingthewrongmen.com and ask me any questions, or submit your own wrong men stories if you'd like to. So.
I love that. Very cool. Thank you. Davina, you have a couple of books out there. Which do you want to talk about? Your inspiration behind them and what messages you're trying to get out?
Yeah, so I have two books, Why You Should Give a Damn About Gay Marriage, and Love Warriors, The Rise of the Marriage Equality Movement, and Why It Will Prevail. And I wrote Why You Should Give a Damn About Gay Marriage in 2004, and it was because it was at a time where even the LGBT community wasn't behind the idea of marriage for same-sex couples, but having been an advocate for many years, seeing what happened to folks because they didn't have marriage protections, people losing their homes, not being able to visit their unrecognized spouses, and the hospital room, not being able to make medical or burial decisions, just a whole host of really horrible things that were happening to couples because they didn't have the same access to marriage and to the 1,138 federal marriage rights that came with marriage and the hundreds of state rights that came with marriage. So my former wife and I were very involved in that movement, and we did a lot to open hearts and minds and to educate people. And so those are 2 books that are out there. And you can find those also on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, Pals.com, or order it from your local bookstore. And just talking about the importance, same-sex couples, we love the same, we have relationships, we go shopping, all the things that heterosexual couples do with very few exceptions, we're the same. And so we deserve the same treatment, equal dignity, equal respect for our relationships, and we need to be able to protect our families. And so that's what those books talk about, as well as sharing stories from straight allies who've been involved with the marriage equality movement and looking at marriage over the years and how discrimination in marriage, unfortunately, has been a part of our nation's history, whether it be the Chinese Exclusion Act that kept Chinese Americans and Asian Americans from marrying and bringing their wives in or marrying white women, or keeping slaves from being able to marry. Marriage has been a way that has been an institution that has crippled people or denied people right. So yeah, that's what those books are about.
And I think that speaks to one of the positives that have come over the, I know you don't like the word evolution because they've kind of de-evolved, but from the transformation of relationships over the years is that now there is more open, there's more diversity, more and more states are taking on, legalizing same-sex marriage, and so that's a benefit that's come from all of this kind of let's experiment with relationships, and now this is great. It's a good thing that's come about because now, we've even got the things like a friend of mine produced a Sister Wives about the man who has several wives, and what's important for us to understand in relationships is that we need to not judge them. Each person's relationship is their own business, and what they decide is what's right for them. And all the judgments going around, I think, are creating this within people, this am I being wrong if I'm not in this single monogamous relationship? Now, not saying that, you shouldn't be in a single monogamous relationship, but it's between that person and their partner or partners. And I think that's, as long as everybody's on the same page and there's not this trust of the cheating behind the scenes and the lies and the miscommunication, I think if any relationship has a potential to be healthy based on that individual's needs.
Right, and Jenny, I just have to say one more thing is that I think as we have been evolving spiritually, we again are we're coming more in contact with people that we've been with before in past lives, and so there's just more and more connections, and so it's harder to explain how things should. Each person needs to find what works for them, and as Gary Zukav in his book Seed of the Soul talks about, previously marriage was based on security, and just until like the 80s, women couldn't even get a credit card if they were single. They only were able to get credit because they were married to men, and their income was not seen as valuable. Well, now we're at a time when people are choosing to have relationships, and it's a spiritual partnership. It's not marriage based on financial security.
Absolutely.
Thank goodness for that. That's really part of the evolution, and basically a good place to talk about my book. My book is about the sacred experience that love brings to complete us as a spiritual being, and to have those epiphany experiences with somebody that we can actually pour ourselves into until we both enter into the nothingness and lose ourselves together. I have a chapter in my book that is about a gay relationship, to sort of talk about, how love is genderless and how it is a spiritual experience. And you're right, how many times have we been reincarnated to join up again to complete something that we've started in this narrative called our existence.
Beautiful book. And when is it going to be due out? Do you have any idea yet?
Well, it's being edited now. I'm seriously thinking now that Kelly has shown me the way to put it on Amazon and go about it that way. But I am going to be reading it also after I complete her audio book.
Oh, excellent.
We're still in the process of putting my audiobook together, and my voice cracks, and then I screw up a lot, so David has to rewind, Kelly.
Gee, I don't know what that's
Someday.
like. Anyway, we're up to the confession time part of the show, and I want to ask you guys, we've all come to this point in our lives where, well, I'm not, but you guys are relationship experts, but there's a point in your time where there was a shift for you, where you learned openness or what was right for you, and I'd love for you to be able to share an experience that you've had and a lesson you've learned in the genre of relationships. So, Kelly, do you want to go first?
Okay. Well, this is the thing, is the entire book I wrote is all about all the relationships that I had, and I'm incredibly analytical of everything I do, work and personal. So, and every situation I've ever been in, I've analyzed, and it is in that book. But I didn't get into my current relationship, which is my fiance Dale, and that was such a big eye-opener after dating, all the wrong men and having so many situations that are negative. The one thing that he did that just was something else, it was he took the initiative with me to embrace who I was and with my problems and my, we had all kinds of baggage, but it matched. So, and he really fought through walls and, but it was something, that somebody so accepting came into my life, which somehow I never had that before. And so just loving and, hey, I know you have abandonment issues, and I still love you, and I won't abandon you. It's really that easy sometimes. But it was actually, he was the first one to really show me that. So there's a confession I haven't already released. So.
I love that. That's awesome. That's perfect. Davina, how about you?
Well, for me, I think it was meeting somebody that I had known before in a past life, and which I feel comfortable saying now, but at the time it was very radical to share that, and just realizing that my heart had opened to somebody else, and trying to understanding that even though I believe. This is hard. This is unrehearsed, so let me try that again. I think that for me the shift was just realizing that even though I might egoically want things to look a certain way, that my first relationship is actually with Spirit. And the most important thing for me on this walk, this earth walk, is my sacred path, my spiritual path, and so that needs to precede everything else. And so relationships need to support that. And if the relationships can't support that, or if the relationships come and they're to learn and grow with that person, and then that contract ends, that I need to, and that it is not about a static contract to the state or to one person, that my contract, my covenant, is with Spirit first. And so, God is my matchmaker and everything else, and really truly be surrendered to that. And that is probably one of the most challenging things to embrace. And I think it's also one of the most beautiful things, because it allows me to have a sense of honesty with people and to be open and not possessive. but who I am at heart is a committed monogamous person.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for that. That was a beautiful share. David, how about you?
Cheers to all the beautiful women in my life, because you have all changed me in so many ways. I wouldn't be the writer that I am today if it hadn't been all for those wonderful experiences. But I have to tell you, my first relationship, which was a tragic one, really taught me about the deeper meaning of love. And to be in a tragic experience with somebody that you're so connected with, really tests who you are as a spiritual being. The other thing is, the second my son was born, the second I cut the cord on him and held him in my hands, I was changed forever.
Absolutely. I can relate to both. There's so many things. I've had interesting relationships since my divorce, but I think my divorce was actually my eye-opener, because my husband was my first boyfriend, my first everything, my first husband. And I thought that was it for me forever, for life. And I came from this whole mindset of you get married and that's the end of it. And then when my divorce came, I had to really look deep within and navigate this whole relationship thing, because it was never what I expected. And I think that is such a blessing looking back, because now I get to experience life a little bit more and understand connections with other people deeper, both romantic and non-romantic. So for me, that experience and that dissolution of that relationship opened me up to so much more. So I have a lot of gratitude for that. So we are at the top of our half hour, and I'd love to go through each of you really quick for just a brief message. What final words would you have to say to the world on this topic? David, let's start back with you.
Understand that we're here, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and that love is the only cause worth having that experience for. So don't worry about the things, don't worry about the materiality. Make that spiritual contact and keep it the most precious thing in your existence.
Perfect. Davina, how about you?
I agree with him. I think that love is the most important thing, and I would encourage people not to get stuck on just getting love in romantic ways and giving love in romantic ways. I think that with my wife and I, that when I was with her, it was just about us and that love. And since my divorce, I feel like it has opened me up to just embrace love and embrace people in a whole new way, and see that there's love everywhere and that we can give it everywhere. We don't just need to give it to this one person. And there's just so many ways to love people, and I do agree with David. That's what we're here to do. We're here to love, and we're spiritual beings having a human experience. I totally agree with them. So thank you for sharing that, David.
Perfect. Kelly, how about you?
I'm with that too, absolutely. You can, on that path, you can show love to your partner if you're choosing to be, like I am, monogamous, show that person love. But every day when you come into contact with anybody you see, you can really show them how you are a loving spirit, and how, you can make a difference with anybody that you come across. I mean, just showing love, even though it's not a romantic love, you can still, make a difference and share that with people anywhere you go.
Perfect. And I just want to encourage everybody to stay open and stay true to yourself, and, just let the love shine from, your heart and not from beliefs. Just let everybody be, and just be love. So I want to thank you guys for coming on tonight. This was a really great conversation, and I think this was fabulous, and I love you all so much. So thanks for coming on.
Love you, Jenny. Thank you. This is wonderful. It's heartfelt.
I love you guys too. I love you guys too. So I want you guys to check out, David, Davina, and Kelly. I'm going to put their links underneath the YouTube video so you can go directly to where their books and their websites are and learn more about them. Read their books, get their healings. They're fabulous people, And so I'm so honored that they came on my show tonight. So thank you. And I'm Jenny Watson. I am a personal empowerment coach. I offer one-on-one private confessions coaching, so you can also catch me at www.jennifer-watson.me. I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight and watching. I appreciate your love and support. Join me next week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, as Laura and I take on Angry Not Cute. What's the topic? Sex trafficking and prostitution. So you want to learn more about that. We're spreading the awareness and the light about it. So check us out next week. Thank you for watching. Namaste.